The meeting will come to order. Roll call. Tim Chiara is here. Linda Alexander. David Eby. Here. Thomas Aceves. Here. Claudine Pedroncelli. And Kate Corantham is not here. All right. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for coming to this special called meeting. This is, sorry. We're here to discuss the county general plan and the local area plans. And I will ask Maria Turner to come up to the podium and she will get us going.
Good evening. Thank you. This is super exciting. You are the first group of our local area plan update community meetings. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come down here. I know it's dinner time and we have better things to do, but this process that we're starting of our community visioning and talking about what is important for us in our local communities and what we want to retain and where we want to grow or change in the future is a vital, vital process. And so that's why it's so wonderful that you are taking this time out to help us with this community visioning. Without your input and without the input of the communities, our plans will not be relevant. And these are very important plans that we use in community development because every project that we do that is discretionary has to be in line with and consistent with the community's vision as well as the general plan. So thank you so much for tonight. I also want to extend thanks to the Western Regional Town Hall, who is holding a special meeting to host us tonight. And I also wanted to extend thanks and appreciation to our, what are you guys called? Oh, dang. AmeriCorps. It's going CalWorks? No, that's wrong. To all of our awesome AmeriCorps ladies. They're here, they're part of our community, and their time and their efforts are really helping us out a lot. These community visioning processes are very ambitious, very time consuming, very high demand on staff, because as you can probably figure, it takes a lot of time to make sure you're talking to as many people as who will talk to you and talk back. And so bringing the AmeriCorps team on board with us is a huge help. Lastly, I also want to thank the PlaceWorks planning firm. They are a very professional, experienced, and extremely productive team of consultants that have joined with Lake County staff to help support this effort as well. We had an icebreaker exercise, which actually is, we didn't want, we're not going to make you wrap toilet paper around yourself or anything like those baby shower games, but you should have received a Post-it note, and we have a place on the back wall where we'd like to kind of get your initial thought on what you see as the future of Lucerne or Nice. So some people have asked, well, what kind of answers are you guys looking for? Something like, I'd want to see us retain our agricultural sort of feel, or I'd like to see our neighborhoods go in this area, or I'd like to see increased commercial, I'd like to see decreased commercial. The things that you have thought of that would make Upper Lake and Nice stay a good community and change for the better is exactly what we'd love to hear. So we don't expect you to write a 5-paragraph essay. You've only got a little Post-it. Just your top 3 thoughts would be extremely helpful. We're going to collect that later. We'll move on then to the next part of our agenda. And also at the end, before we close out, I'm going to give a plug for the local area plan advisory committees, which have just been established by the Board of Supervisors. We have a general plan advisory committee, which has 15 members from all around the lake of various areas of expertise. And that's great to oversee the general plan and the related documents, as well as the environmental impact report. However, there are a lot of really good things. Oop, I told you I was going to plug it later. I'm going to save it. I'll tell you some of the really cool stuff that the local area plan advisory committees work on that is a vital part of each local area plan update. But instead of talking all night, I'm going to hand it over to Tanya, Michelle, and, oh, great, here's Tanya for our overview and introduction of the 2050 general plan update.
Thank you, Mireya. We can pull up the PowerPoint, and we're going to start on slide 4.
Slide 4?
Correct, where we have the overview of the project. So, as Mireya said, my name is Tanya Sundberg. I'm with PlaceWorks. We're the county's consultant for Lake County 2050. And I just want to echo her thank you to all of you for sharing your time with us tonight. Your input is very valuable and really critical to this project. So thank you again. I think we want to go back one slide.
This one?
No, okay, go back to the slide you were at. We'll go there. Okay, so I have just a relatively brief presentation to get everybody oriented to this project and to also what we're going to be doing tonight. So just to start really broadly, what is this project? This is called Lake County 2050. It's a comprehensive update to the county's general plan, including all 8 of the local area plans. It also includes environmental review, which is a process required by state law through the preparation of environmental impact report. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then it includes concurrent preparation of a document called a climate adaptation plan. That's a county-wide plan that will set up a framework for the county to adapt to the effects of climate change. Oh, thank you. All right, so next slide. I want to start out with a review of this document we're updating, the general plan. What is a general plan? A general plan is a long-range plan. In this case, we're looking out to the year 2050, long ways away, and it guides the county's decisions on a pretty broad variety of topics for decisions they make that affect the unincorporated county. The general plan is often called a constitution for the development and conservation of a jurisdiction. And it's called a constitution because it sets up this broad overarching framework for all of the more detailed regulations and guidelines and other plans that affect the future of the jurisdiction. So typically a general plan will start with a community identified vision for the future, what you want to be in the year 2050, and then it includes a set of goals, policies, and actions that the county will follow in order to make decisions that will support that vision for the future. An important function of the general plan is that it provides consistent direction so that everybody in the community has some certainty about what the future of the community is. And also because the general plan covers such a broad variety of topics, it really takes some careful thinking, and it really requires community direction like we're getting here tonight to make sure that we set up these policies in a way that balances growth, conservation, and quality of life in a way that supports the community's vision for the future. And finally, another aspect of the general plan is that it documents the baseline environmental conditions so that we all have a shared understanding of the kind of starting point for this work that we're doing in the plan. Next slide, please. So there are 8 topics that state law requires general plans to address. You can see them here on this slide, but the counties and cities are not limited to only addressing those 8 topics. You can have some leeway to address other topics that are really more specific to the needs of your community. So your current Lake County General Plan covers the required topics as well as some optional topics. So it covers the topics that are required of land use, open space, circulation, housing, conservation, safety, and noise. It does not cover environmental justice. That's a new topic that I'll highlight later in the presentation. And then your current plan also covers these optional elements, including the aggregate resources management plan, agricultural resources, geothermal resources, public facilities and services, and water resources. I do want to point out the housing element is part of your general plan, but it is required to be updated on a more frequent basis than the rest of the general plan, so that will be updated separately. And then similarly, the aggregate resources management plan that's currently an appendix to your general plan, that will also be updated separately from the rest of this effort. Next slide, please. So moving on to local area plans. Local area plans are also long-range plans. And they cover some of the general plan topics that I just presented, but it covers them at a more localized scale. So they're really attuned to the issues and conditions in that local area. So your current shoreline communities local area plan carries equal weight as the countywide elements in the general plan. But again, it provides policy guidance that's really specific just to the shoreline communities area. The shoreline communities area plan also identifies areas that are called special study areas. And in these areas, it provides policy and design guidance that's even more specific just for those areas. So the current local area plan has special study area policy and design guidance for the Promenade in Lucerne, the Strand in Lucerne, the Plaza in Clear Lake Oaks, and East Clear Lake Oaks. So those are the current areas that are kind of highlighted and treated with a little bit more detail in your current local area plan. Next slide, please. So as part of this project, the Lake County 2050, we are planning to reorganize the contents in your general plan to streamline the content and also avoid redundancy. So many of these topics that I was just presenting on are best planned at a localized scale, and so those will be covered in your local area plan. That includes land use, circulation, open space conservation and recreation, environmental justice, public facilities and services, economic development, and these special study areas I highlighted, the specific policy and design guidance for those areas. And then the remaining topics will be covered in the countywide elements, and those topics are health and safety, noise, geothermal, agricultural resources, water resources, housing, and the aggregate resources management plan. Next slide, please. So one of the topics that receives a lot of attention in general plan update is land use. And that's in part because of this map called the General Plan Land Use Map that you can see a piece of here on the slide. This map receives a lot of attention because it has a lot of impact on the future of the community. What it does is it identifies what types of land uses can be developed on each parcel in the unincorporated county. And it also identifies some basic parameters for how densely or intensely that use can be developed. This sets up the framework for the more detailed zoning map that many of you may be more familiar with. But again, this has a lot of influence on the look and feel of our community. So it does receive a lot of attention, and it's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Next slide, please. So I do want to take a few minutes to talk about this new topic, environmental justice. This is a new topic that's required by state legislation that was passed in 2016, so it's not in your current general plan. And to start, just let's talk a little bit about the definition, what we mean when we say environmental justice. Lots of people have different ideas of how to define it, and it is defined in state law. You can see that here on the slide. But I like to think of it as simply the basic right of everybody to be able to live and work, go to school, play, worship in a healthy and clean environment. But what this law recognizes is that low-income communities, communities of color, tribal communities have faced a combination of factors over the years that have led these communities to often be facing disproportionate pollution burdens and disproportionate social and economic disadvantages like poverty and housing instability. And so this, under this law, communities in California that are facing that combination of factors are called disadvantaged communities, and the law requires that if there are disadvantaged communities in the jurisdiction, the environmental justice element identify policies that work specifically to improve conditions in those communities. Next slide, please. So to comply with this new legislation for any disadvantaged communities that are identified in Lake County, the general plan will need to include policy guidance that works to reduce pollution exposure and improve air quality in those communities, also promote access to public facilities, promote access to healthy and affordable food, access to safe and sanitary housing, and opportunities for physical activity. And then we also know that the approach to developing these policies can't be a top-down approach. We need to emphasize equity in this process, and we need to involve the communities that are affected by these issues. And so it needs to be a kind of ground-up approach. And finally, this legislation also directs us to prioritize improvements and programs that address the needs that are in those disadvantaged communities. Next slide, please. All right, so many of you may not have really interacted with the general plan much in your day-to-day lives, but it does have some real effects on how you experience your lives here in this county. It kind of works behind the scenes. So I just want to point out a couple of those ways that it does it so you can keep in mind why this matters and why it's important for you to be here. So as I mentioned earlier, the general plan land use map identifies the types of land uses that can be developed and where, and so that has real effects on how you and your neighbors can develop and use your property. And that land use map also identifies where job generating uses can be located or where new commercial services are located. So that affects how easy it is for you to find a job that's close to your home, or how easy it is for you to get to a grocery store or reach other services. The general plan also has policy guidance that can affect how neighborhoods are built in the first place. So that can really affect the look and feel of your neighborhood. Next slide, please. The general plan also includes some policy guidance on how roadways are designed and improved. Also, whether there are parks close to you and how well they're maintained. Also has policy guidance on how to reduce risks to you and your property from hazards, from natural hazards, and on how cultural and natural resources around you are conserved. So these are just a few of the topics that are covered and why it's important and how it affects your life. Next slide, please. There we go. So, as I mentioned at the outset, part of this process also includes environmental review. So this is a process that's required by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. It requires the county to disclose the potential physical effects on the environment that can result from adoption and implementation of this new general plan. So we will do that through what's called an environmental impact report, or EIR. That document will both disclose the impacts and then identify ways that we could potentially mitigate or reduce or avoid those impacts through mitigation measures or project alternatives. There are some opportunities for public input and comment in this process, including commenting on the scope of the analysis and commenting on the analysis itself. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide gives you a broad overview of the Lake County 2050 process. This is a 3-year process. We kicked it off last fall, and we expect it to go through fall of 2026. The countywide elements process is underway, and that's going to happen more quickly than these local area plan updates. We do expect drafts of those countywide elements this fall. And this workshop is part of our initiation to the local area plan update process. What we learn from you today will inform the key issues that we know we need to address for the Shoreline Community's local area plan. And based on that, we'll be developing policy and land use alternatives to respond to those key issues, and that work will be happening through this fall. And then we expect full drafts of the local area plans to be ready in spring of next year. And at that point, we'll be able to start that environmental review process I mentioned that will result in a draft EIR being published in spring of 2026. Then we have more public review looking at adoption in the fall of 2026. Next slide, please. So Your participation here tonight, as I said at the outset, this is really critical to this effort. This needs to be a community-driven process for it to be successful. So again, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. And I encourage you to continue to stay involved throughout this 3-year process, and also help us to spread the word by telling your friends and family and neighbors about the process. There's a lot of materials you can pick up today and bring home with you and just help distribute. Because the more people we hear from, the more reflective this will be of the overall community's vision. So there will be ongoing opportunities to participate. We will have 2 more rounds of these local area plan workshops this coming fall. That's when we'll talk about those policy and land use alternatives I mentioned for this local area plan. And then we anticipate next spring having another round of workshops to present the draft local area plans and hear your feedback on what we need to change to make sure we got it right. And then there's also other venues where you can attend meetings and comment in comment periods. There are going to be some stakeholder focus group meetings on specific topics. There has been a general plan advisory committee, or GPAC, that was formed. They'll be meeting at key phases, and you can attend those as a member of the public. Similarly, Planning Commission Board of Supervisors will have updates along the way. So I encourage you to attend and share your point of view. And finally, we do have a project website dedicated to this effort, lakecounty2050.org. Please do check it out, and again, spread the word. There's a survey up there right now that you can fill out. We also have hard copies of that survey here. So you can find more information about the project there, and also keep tabs on what's happening by checking it regularly, as well as getting on our mailing list. We'll do the same. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we break into the small group discussions, I do want to just take a minute to review what we're going to do. But I'll take a minute to just give you a preview of what's next before we do Q&A, and then we can start that discussion. But that way you have the opportunity to ask questions about it if you would like. So next slide, please. So you have in the workshop overview, that was one of the handouts here, you have these questions on your overview handout, so you have those referenced there. But this is what we're going to be talking about in the next part of the workshop. We're going to be covering these 4 questions and taking notes on what you say, because everything you tell us, as I said, is going to really inform what we focus on as part of this update. So we have about 45 minutes for this discussion, and we will help you get through that discussion. We do also have maps at each table. We'll probably consolidate you, but we encourage you to mark up and draw on the maps as part of your comments. We love to see that. Next slide. And I think we can skip the reports back because we're going to stay in one big group. So I think we're ready for Q&A.
All right, we'll come back together as a group now, and Ray will direct.
Awesome. So this is our time now then for all of the groups to hear what the small groups came up with. You should have volunteered one of your members to present for you, and we'll start over here with Thomas's group.
Wait, I'm Thomas Caceres. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much.
Not so much? Good? A little bit?
Go ahead.
1, 2. You can hear me better? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start out with what do you like most about the area? What we like most about the area is we like the good, excellent air quality that we continue to try to have, other than when the fires are involved. We love the scenery, the beautiful area, the recreational activities. One thing I love to do, and many people do, is I do a lot of cycling in this area. So I really love the geographical area. It's an excellent area to do road cycling and also to mountain biking and other activities. We also love that we maintain large setbacks. Is that what we want? We like that?
We like the large setbacks.
We like large setbacks between the structures. And I think that's one of the main points we like. Now, what are the challenges? What are the challenges? Well, we want to support one of our big passions. This is a passion we continue to have at the work meetings. And hopefully you'll come out in May 15th because we're going to be talking about this, is the corridor, the 20 corridor. Safety should continue to to work on that. Also in the city itself, in the town of Upper Lake, with the school pedestrian area, which we're still talking about in all our meetings. And we'll probably be doing a subcommittee in April about this issue. But the corridor of 20, trying to continue to improve that safety, and there are things coming up by Caltrans that they're going to be working on. What other challenges we have here?
Thomas Park. It's up under.
Where are we at? Public parks, we want to look at safety and improving those for the community. And then what else we got here? Well, big one in our area, especially Nice, and I know other areas too, abatement. Huge. Cleaning up the area, cleaning up Nice, and working with squatters, getting rid of those, working with the crime, working with the drug use. These are all big issues in Nice. Restoring housing stock, more housing for the community, is that what we're saying? And commercial. Working on Middle Creek restoration, working on lowering the crime and drug use, that's a huge one. We want to refresh the community signage in these. Those signs that when you enter in, egress and outgress, or we want to get rid of we want to, those are terrible right now. And then increase tourism and to bring more people to our community with all these other things. And presence of wildfire mitigation. What else do we have? Do you think changes are needed to the planned area? And I think we said no, we didn't believe there's any changes needed. And do you think changes are needed to the local area plan boundary? And we felt there was no changes on that either. So those are some of the bullet points that we had in this group, and I'm sure there'll be some similar points in your area. Thank you.
Super. Deb, are you the state person?
Yeah. Come on, I'm gonna go up there. Do it. And then he's gonna have to turn his, yeah.
Okay, I'm Deb Clark, the president of Wrkshp Business Association. I live in Nice, and we had quite a lively group. So we talked about the dangers of Highway 20, everybody knows that. But we really talked about the lake quality and lake ecosystem, the small town feel of our community, and festivals. We talked about maybe having some festivals, like we do. We're having one coming up here pretty soon. We have a real problem with internet service here. A lot of people don't know that, especially out in Blue Lakes, probably Upper Lake, they have to do the wrap. They don't even have broadband. I think they have satellite. So we talked about making it accessible to everybody. And it's even hard to hear on your phone if it's smoky. People don't realize that. So if you're calling about a loved one that's having problems, you might not be able to get through with your cell phone. Let's see. The municipal services and information sharing needs to be improved, more open with the government, maintain and improve critical landline infrastructure. A lot of people are losing their landlines, especially senior citizens like myself. I don't have a landline, but anyway, people are losing those and then they can't get internet service then. It's impossible to get a landline if you're new in the area. Let's see. This one here was kind of interesting. The shoreline is so large, and we would like to see more service providing. It's underserved. We've had 2 failed ballot measures for firefighters. There should be more consolidation and sharing of special district services. Spring Valley is super difficult to serve. There's no cell service once you get past Double Eagle Ranch. And then we were wondering about the boundaries, how they were made, and we talked about to conform to service district boundaries. The Rivieras is well funded, whereas the shoreline communities are underfunded. And we'd like to see more signage for parks. Somebody came into my shop the other day and they said, oh, did you know that there's a park called Deer Park? And I knew that, but I don't think there's even a sign that's up above Century. So, I mean, real nice signage about parks so that, you know, we have this blue zones thing happening in our county, which is fabulous. But if we want to get people out to do some exercise and eat well, have well-defined park signs and toilets and where everything is, so we can go potty and all that kind of stuff. Can I get it? Oh, thank goodness, I was a little worried. This is really my notes.
That was great, and the part about broadband reminded me that the internet connectivity for tonight did not allow us to stream our meeting on Zoom. However, the meeting is being recorded and will become available, so check the lakecounty2050.org link in the future. How about the next group?
All right, well, our group was, according to Michelle, robust, so that's good. Question 1, assets. Main Street in Upper Lake is underutilized asset. And also Upper Lake and Nice are the gateway to the Mendocino National Forest, which Deer Park is in. So again, underutilized. Why aren't we promoting this whole Nice Upper Lake area as gateway to the Mendocino National Forest? More biking trails to connect public lands, the levee system becoming actually that recreational trail that includes wide paths that are for hiking, biking, equestrian, along with wildlife viewing and preservation and education, especially for youth. And then we want to preserve the old town feel of Upper Lake and the small town feel of Nice. Question 2, biggest issue, roads and traffic safety, and not just limited to 20. 20 is a scenic highway. Why is that not being more utilized and more funds available because of that? To improve everything. Also, we need better stormwater drainage. We are in a water wonderful community here in Lake County, and our stormwater drainage here in Upper Lake and Nice is significantly challenged, and we have flooding happening quite often in Upper Lake in the residential areas because the stormwater drainage system is improper. Break Lake County stigma, that's a big one for us at this table. We want to break the Lake County stigma. And then marina improvements and basic shoreline improvements. The falling apart dilapidated docks, the marina in Nice that really used to thrive when we were all young and going there, those of us that did. Then also, we think mixed use needs to be increased in both communities. There's not enough housing or commercial area in both communities. We think that the senior citizens of both communities are underutilized and talked about different programs, including a rented or adopt a grandparent program. Definitely emphasis on recreational and outside areas for kids to be kids. We're missing a community center in this region. We need one. We have our senior centers, yes, but we don't have a community center. And a lot of unsafe buildings, docks, and abandoned cars. And then as far as boundary lines, we actually just have one. We like our boundary line except for this one area. It's confusing to everybody. So we just ask that the county look at that one edge and see if it shouldn't be in Lakeport, or should it remain in the Upper Lake Nice area, because it's definitely more Lakeport oriented. Thank you.
Well, I'm David Eby. I'm a Blue Lakes representative on the Western Region Town Hall. And for those who don't know us at Blue Lakes, we're the forgotten, the neglected. But we're also part of Upper Lake, proudly representing them. But the biggest thing that we had that our little group came up with was those rural wide open spaces, which everybody was into that, but preserve the small town character of Upper Lake. We've lost it in Blue Lakes, we don't have it anymore. But here, when you're walking around looking, you do have that old town feel. So we're proud to be part of that, and we think that that should be maintained. The merchants are doing a wonderful job. Environmental health. Stay rural, don't develop a lot, keep an open space. So if you have, I come from Ukiah years ago, and our motto was infill. Don't move the city limits, infill everything. So if I had a vacant lot and I want to develop it, I develop it. That's just my feeling. And if you go to Blue Lakes, you'll see that that's where a lot of people thought infill, because we have only 3 open lots left. Major issue, large unpermitted cannabis grows, and it changed the character of Blue Lakes, it's changed the character of Lake County, and it changes the character in the national forest, because it's not stunts, you're smelling. And it does affect our property values, it does affect a criminal people intent, and some of them are just there to steal it at night. And backyard grows, they're not permitted, but they're allowed, and they're having thieves come in at night. Everybody says, well, when the price falls, that won't happen. It's happened. It's still happening. Law enforcement, we need more funding and staff. At Blue Lakes, it takes 20 to 25 minutes for an officer to arrive, and Lord help you if you're really in danger. And everywhere the homeless population is increasing, not only in Upper Lake, Blue Lakes, all along the 20 corridor. With the new homeless shelter over on Welling, is it? Wayland. It's helped some, but it's full, it's to capacity. And when we're referring people there, they're being turned away, and they're back under our bridges, they're back in our fields, they're back but tribal has helped, but they can't do everything. Small ag parcels are not economically viable. So it's these little 20-acre lots or 30-acre lots, it's really not advantageous for them to stay agriculture. They should be changed into an open use or something, some other type of zoning. Dog parks separate from recreational parks. You've gone over to our park over here, the shade the dogs have, we don't have the shade if you're out in the park itself. So that's just a suggestion that all of us over here, especially the gentleman who's been here nearly his whole life, and he said, what in the world did they put a dog park there for? There were lots of other places.
Is that in Wrkshp or Nice? You're talking about Nice dog park?
We're talking about the one right here.
I didn't even know that.
They took a whole bunch of the soccer field.
They took the whole bunch of the soccer field and made it into a dog. And who picks up the landmines? Nobody. Even the dogs are walking, shaking a foot. Traffic. Not only on the 20 corridor, but around our schools, we need some type of traffic calming. More crosswalks. There's one at Elliott, but we need one further up. speed bumps would slow down some of them, but there are those that don't like speed bumps. And if I lived on the street and it was in front of my house, I would be adamantly no, no, no. Because I've been in a street where there's speed bumps and they do make noise when the cars go fast over them.
Last couple issues were-
Fire prevention and protection. At Blue Lakes, we have 7 water systems there. None of us have fire protection. Homes are getting their fire insurance canceled because we're in a wildfire area. And where's your nearest hydrant? It's 8 miles away, right out there on Mendenhall. So we do have a lake, they can pump, but it takes them 20 to 5 minutes to get from the Oaks there. And you can't find it with the garden hose. We've lost 3 homes.
That was it.
Was that it?
That's it.
Oh my goodness. So those are the main points that we came up with, but one that I didn't see there that you didn't write down is at Blue Lakes, we have public beaches. If you moved into one of our subdivisions and you wanted to have a shade shelter on your community beach, it's zoned R1. We need them zoned open space so that we can put a shade shelter, we can put picnic tables. And there are 3 major subdivisions that have beaches, but we can't do anything with them without a zoning change. So that was my main thing at Blue Lakes.
Thank you very much. So a lot of the same messages kind of resonated through our groups. Additionally, while the groups were talking, is it John walked in? Yeah, and he and I had a conversation just going through the agendas, and some of the things that I took from that conversation was the importance of keeping agriculture diversified, the protection of the larger parcels for ag land, because once they go smaller, then they turn into residential use parcels, and we don't get that prime ag soil back. Additionally, to encourage opportunities to combine agriculture with education in our schools, to teach our students about where their food comes from. And also lastly, just one of the challenges is that the current land values make it very difficult or prohibitive to have the diversified agriculture as far as ground crops go. Those were really good points of input. Thank you. So thank you, everybody. One of the things I liked that resonated was the preservation of our small town character. But there are ways that we can improve our systems and our services while still maintaining that character. The Western Regional Town Hall was gracious enough to have a special meeting and host us in this structure. I wanted to just take a minute or two and see if there was any commentary from the Worth Board itself on anything that you may think that we missed or overlooked today.
I'm quite impressed with the turnout and the enthusiasm of people to share their thoughts and concerns. And I hope very much that we will have more meetings like this from the county to our communities.
Thank you very much. And that's a good chance for me to mention that each planning area is going to have 3 community planning meetings. This is just the first one. The next one, be on the lookout, will be in the fall. As well as, please, if you have interest in having your say, having your voice heard, please apply for the local area plan advisory committees. We need 9 people on each committee, and I should talk in caps just to stress to you how important it is that we get this community-specific input to help us to draft and create that vision for our communities for going forward.
I have one more thing that kind of important. These are for people to write down dates. Our next board meeting is on Wednesday the 17th, not the 15th.
Wednesday the 17th, not the 15th.
Going on here.
Next Worth meeting,
It's
awesome.
on the 17th this month.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Lastly, If you didn't get a chance to complete a survey, we have a one-page survey that also gathers some input, and you get this totally cool license plate holder. Thank you for modeling, Tim. Lake County 2050.org website is on one side, and I Love Lake County is on the other side. It's a great conversation starter for, I don't know, when we get stuck in traffic, people are leaving their vehicles. But it's just also, it's a really good way to build moral awareness, because our overall goal is to just gather as much input as we can possibly get. And I will turn it over to Wrkshp to close the meeting. Thanks again, everybody, for showing up today.
I would like to thank everyone for coming. And I would ask if there's a motion to adjourn. So moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The meeting is adjourned.